today we interview a legendary frontline sales, someone who has unlocked a tremendous value through passion, drive, and teamwork, Istvan Kapitany. Istvan, it's a pleasure to interview you, and we go back a long time, and I learned a lot from you. So great to have you with us at Abeille to share some of your wisdom and knowledge. But first of all, maybe tell us a bit, who is Istvan Kapitany for the few who will be watching this video and who don't know you?
Thanks very much, Giorgio, for the invitation. It's always great to see you. As you said, we had the pleasure to work and have fun together for quite a number of years in the very area of sales, as you've been running the biggest part of the sales activity I was responsible for, and I enjoyed your tremendous professionalism and delivery. Well, I'm Hungarian, as you know. Anybody who knows me knows that as well. But I'm also an honorary Zulu. I spent a lot of time in South Africa. I'm a Hungarian cowboy from Texas, Houston, where I had the chance to work for an iconic brand like Penn's or Quaker State. But also, I'm a German businessman, a very structured one, as I spent almost 10 years in Germany running our retail business and also heading the supervisory board there. And I am most of all a global business leader and a human being who likes other people a lot around the world.
Yes, and of course you started selling beyond the Iron Curtain, right? Maybe have you got some anecdote or something you can share? And did you choose sales or did sales choose you?
Yeah, I normally introduce myself if I talk to a conference and they don't know me that I'm the guy who is from the wrong side of the Iron Curtain. I started my career in '87 in Shell, but in '84 in a shopping mall. So I chose sales. I decided after university and after national service we had back then, I decided to go to sales. And one of the main reasons why it was because I always liked people. My education was very much about that part of the economy. So I'm an economist, but it's specialized on the retail industry,
Yeah.
and it was a great decision. I enjoyed every single moment before I joined Shell, and after I joined Shell, it just got better.
Yeah. And Ishwan, you were also heading the largest mobility retailing business globally. When when you were, engaging with the teams, what I know, of course, the answer, but for those who are listening, what were you selling? What is being sold to customers in the mobility business?
Yeah, in a mobility business, many people think, particularly it's called Shell service stations, that
Hmm.
you sell petrol or
Hmm.
diesel. And if I contributed in my career something to Shell and to the industries to take that notion away, what we are selling to customers is a very pleasant journey, hopefully, and a stop on the journey from A to B, where we are offering them whatever they need when they are on the road, making their journey far more enjoyable and comfortable than typically a competitor able to do. Now, well, you say, well, it's a simple commodity, petrol. I mean, that was true 25 years ago.
Hmm.
Today, people are driving 10 minutes to 15 minutes more to buy V-Power, which we invented, which is the Ferrari fuel. We are serving great hot dogs, what others don't sell. Or in my home country, we are very famous for grilled chicken. We even have a profit and loss account developed. I was very famous in the 90s on that we even measured the business success, the sales success to that level of depth with this thing. So what we are really selling is a brand, is a belief that if you come to that place, you're gonna get a better service, better quality products than you get from somebody else, and that is essentially what in sales you need to do. And the other thing which I think we started to do early on in Hungary, that we sold this experience not cheap. Because I always say, show me your price, and I tell you how good of a marketeer and a salesperson you are. And from very early on in my career, I went to the more difficult but far more enjoyable way, is to create value through premium selling rather than discounting.
Yes, no, I heard that and I saw that in action. And you were managing or indirectly one of the largest people organizations globally, right? And about 500,000 people on the Shell service stations. So what sales has taught you about people, but also maybe about yourself?
You see, early on, I was very lucky. Although I chose sales, but I didn't know whether I would be good at it. And one of the great thing about sales is that it's interconnected with other people.
Yes.
So the moment you realize that you have an impact on people, whether they are your colleagues or your business partners, then you can capitalize on that and you can get to a better level of skills throughout your career. So from early on, I enjoyed these interactions. And when you enjoy something, in my own experience, is easier to progress, easier to learn. So whether I was doing a job in behind the Iron Curtain, as we said in Hungary in '87, although I didn't feel that that was a terrible sort of situation because I'm an optimistic person by nature, uh, or I was running a global business for Shell with 85 different countries and 500,000 colleagues. It was exactly the same type of thing about your role as a leader. And that's true in sales, in marketing, everywhere. And that is, you need to be able to motivate, inspire your people to achieve more than they ever believed themselves that they could achieve. And if you are able to do that, you are a good leader. And if you look back on your career and people say, yeah, Istvan was helping me with this or that, that is what remains with you, not necessarily, how many liter of V power we were able to sell. That's the job when you do the job, but the real job is to develop other people, develop other leaders. And that's the only way you can get better in sales, but you can get better in leadership generally.
Yes, and developing people matters so much for ultimately business outcome, right? But also, as you say, for the legacy you leave behind. And if you would pick up three words to describe, sales or the sales professions at its best, what would they be?
Three words. First is belief.
Mm,
Very, very, very difficult to sell
thing.
if you do not believe.
Yeah.
If you think about, I mentioned V Power, or
Yes.
the other big gig we had was in Texas, US. For Penzo, we developed Pure Plus, which is made
Yes.
out of natural gas. It's a lubricant, and to get the hundreds and hundreds of salesmen all across the United States of America to have this strong belief in the product that this is a better product than the competitor products back then, Castrol and Mobile One, was the main key element of succeeding with this. The product was great technically,
Yeah.
technologically. Shell is a company which produces high quality products,
Yes.
but you really need to have that real strong belief, stronger belief than our competitors have in
Yes.
their own products, because then you are able to, of course, naturally convince others of the benefits of the product you sell. The second word comes to
Mm,
mind is communication.
mm,
I find it so often in sales, in marketing, but in life generally,
mm.
that communication is too complicated, is too sophisticated, particularly in great companies like Shell, where you have so many good
Yeah.
people.
I might have heard that
It
before.
becomes a little bit theoretical, highly intellectual, but the word is not like that. You need to be phrasing your messages crystal clearly. You need to be making sure that your direction is steady, so you not keep changing it in every single week, depending upon who you talked to before. And if you have that kind of capability to communicate in a way that everybody can understand and everybody can be motivated and
Mm,
inspired by that, you have a chance to succeed. And the third one in this in sales is relationship. Without relationship, it's no way that you're going to be able to sell, whether you are in B2B or B2C. You
yeah.
need to be getting to that kind of trust, building the trust, the long-term connections. In
Yeah.
B2C, if you build the trust of a brand, you can rely upon that for a long time. You need to be very careful not to lose it, because
Yes.
trust is coming as a pedestrian and leaves on the back of a horse. So you need to be very careful. In B2B, you need to invest your time, energy, effort to build these personal relationships, which are important, because businesses are in most of the instances, I think you would agree, not made between companies. It's made between people, who understand each other. So therefore, the relationship part, belief, communication, and relationship, in my own experience.
Super, and yeah, and I think it's a great message also for those who are listening. That you can have. There are three areas where you can have an impact almost immediately in what you do, right? And it was, but remember at times I shared we were struggling sometimes to recruit good salespeople, right? And while it was very easy to get someone in strategy, also for my strategy times. Why do you think is that? What do we need to do differently maybe to get more people working in sales, which is the most important activity in a company?
It is because it looks and feels cognitively less of a challenge than
Mm,
to work in strategy, marketing, or finance. That
mm,
that that could be the reason. And you remember when you finish university, you want to achieve biggest success in the world.
yes.
Many people, as we've seen it in our former company as well, wanted to join strategy because people thought that strategy is everything. Now, when you spent 4 decades like I did, and more than 3 decades you did, you realize that strategy is important. And you were my strategy GM,
Yes.
so you know very well.
Really.
And I don't want to, how can I say, belittle the importance of strategy, but it's around 20-30% of the success,
Yes.
and 70% is in the doing, in the selling. You can
Yes.
have the best strategy in the world if you have salesmen who are not able to sell water in the Sahara to the
Yeah.
thirsty person. You can have the best strategies that you write. The money is created when the deal is done and when the money is arrived on your bank account.
Yes.
And in big companies, particularly because we work in a big company, people think that, well, we already signed a memorandum of understanding. It should
Yeah.
be okay. I mean, you know how many memorandum
Yes.
of understanding I've seen where,
True.
where I haven't seen a penny on our profit and loss account. So therefore, I think that is why, and what
Mm,
we need to make sure when we are bringing people into sales, and that's the reason why your new company is such a wonderful tool, and I would recommend everybody to use this capability and platform, because the real success is to make the deal. The real success is to deliver something which is better than the others can do on the delivery side, on the deal making side, on the selling side. And therefore, you have to make this profession significantly more, in inverted commas, sexy
mm,
and far more attractive for young people to come in. And to put that message also across, that if you want to be a private entrepreneur, and success
mm.
is entirely upon your sales capability at the end of the day. If you believe that because you were able to find a great strategy, or even if you have a great marketing program,
Yeah.
uh, there is no way that you can say, well, it's in the bag. You're going to succeed. I tell you this,
Mm,
the companies I had to be turning around, they all had a great strategy, and they also had a great marketing program.
mhm.
What they didn't have was a delivery capability on how to do this
Yes.
without, by the way, enormous amount of compromise. In a big company like this with a great brand, we had, it was very easy to have a great marketing program. It's a fantastic brand, but then people started to use very low price to sell.
Yeah.
And that was a fundamental mistake in the whole proposition, because the moment you are selling a great brand cheaper than you should be, you're
Yeah.
totally discounting the value and you're not going to get there. So, therefore, making sales understood,
Yeah.
that is what your company is trying to do now,
Yes.
is very, very critical, because I tell you, most of the people who succeed, I mean, I did a lot of marketing and we did a lot of strategy together, but
Yes.
what I'm most proud of was the delivery capability, the selling capability, what we had in the individual countries and globally.
Yeah. Well, this is music to my ears, Ishmael, because my slogan is that if you cannot sell it, it doesn't matter. And
Absolutely.
and you have seen many salespeople, many sales professionals. Is there maybe some attributes that you might say this is what beyond hitting targets, which I know are very important for you, that you say this is is a great saleswoman or salesman? What a couple of thoughts maybe around that.
First is, as I mentioned before, and I really believe it's very critical in business, but particularly in sales, is the ability to connect to people. and to a different level of people.
Yes.
So it's very, very important. And how it's very wrong if somebody is having great relationships with CEOs
Mm.
and not having very good relationships with people lower in the organization. As a matter of fact, it should be the other way around. It's easier to, at the end of the day, to have a good relationship with the CEO if you understand how to
Yes.
sell into an organization. So laser sharp focus on the customers and not on your own products and services. So
Mm.
there's that problem. Is very often you know what you want to sell, and
Yes.
it stops you from listening what the customer want to buy.
Yes.
And you think that you can force sell. And I really, we work together, but I'm sure that you do have a similar experience. Well, you might do it once or twice, but if you are force selling your product or
Yes.
service, which is not really for the customer problems, you don't understand the customer pinch points. What are the problems they start to try to sort out with you? Then you're never gonna be a good salesman. So a good salesman should understand what the customer really need and try to find a solution to that particular problem. Uh, and if in order to do that, you really have to have this great capability to connect with people, to understand their needs, like the communication. Never think that talking with people is a waste of time. I
Yes.
mean, in sales, you need to talk a lot. You never know when that kind of conversation you had will yield results in 2 or 3 years' time in an entirely other field. So that's the sales mindset is a very difficult mindset for an engineer to understand. And you and I, we worked for a company where we
Yes.
had many engineers, and that's the reason why
I'm
they
an
were very so
engineer.
they were. You are an engineer, I'm not. So they were very surprised at how could you think like this, because it's just a very different way to connect. Selling doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to be entirely rational all the time. If you think about this, I mean, some of the products we sell, V-Power, is this a hydrocarbon with 100 octane that we sold? Well, technically it is, but as a matter of fact, it isn't. It is something a wish, a dream to be fulfilled. That I can be driving a car which is similar to Ferrari, or
Yes.
I can go a bit faster. So it satisfies a need, which is a different need
Yes.
than an engineer would think about. Because an engineer would think about, okay, 100 octane. So if somebody comes with 102 octane,
Of
it's
course.
better, but it might not be better. It depends upon how you are positioning this, and therefore I think the ability to understand your customers, whether it's in B2B or B2C, is the key.
Yeah. And Isha, you mentioned Power, which was a huge marketing success, and you were behind that. Maybe any learning from that experience you had at the time, and maybe some advice you would give to someone who has maybe a great idea but doesn't feel like pushing it through in his or her organization.
Yeah, it's very interesting, particularly in a big company. Very often people say, "Well, I don't have a space because
Mm.
everything is done by the central office."
Yes.
Now, I work for a big international company, and we really tried different things. VPAR is one of them. So when we when we launched VPAR in many markets in Central Eastern Europe, in
Mm.
Germany, in Austria,
When was it? What years was that?
98,
Oh, wow.
98,
Almost,
99. Yeah.
almost 30 years anniversary, yeah?
Yeah, and then with Michael Schumacher from Ferrari supporting that journey, there was not a fundamental common belief by everybody that this could work, because there were different ways of approaching this issue. Because clearly it's a very niche product. People thought. Well, it is now 20% of the total sales, so it's clearly not the main grade, but it's a very important part of our success, who we are. Now, when we invented this, we thought it would be for 3% of the
Mm.
customers, very unique. Originally, we wanted to import it from Hamburg in drums and sell it almost as a racing fuel. And then we
Mm.
figured out that we were able to use the normal channels, and we were able to actually offer this through the pumps. But we only used, when we launched it, one pump. And then we had to go back because customers liked it so much. And don't forget, this was launched in Hungary in 98
Yes.
when people were driving Ladas and Skodas, but not the very modern Skodas
Trabants.
that you have today, Trabants. And people said, "Are you crazy? Why would they pay $20 cent a little more?"
Yeah.
And they were wrong. They of course paid because they didn't have enough money to buy a Ferrari, but they had enough money to buy a product that Ferrari drives. So uh, believe I mentioned,
Mm.
it did not surprise you. People thought we were totally crazy. So
Yeah.
this is a belief like when other people believe that it cannot be right.
Yeah.
But if you really, you cannot fake, by the way, believing. That's the whole
Yes.
issue. You can only fool yourself. But
Yeah.
if you believe, take the risk. So one of the advice would be stick your neck out, take the risk. Nobody will die. Yes, it's not
Yeah.
like you start the Third World War. It is something. If you are in a business, it's worthwhile to try to do things you believe in. When you believe in, your colleagues tend to believe because they realize that, look, this is serious. This is not coming from the head office. This
Yes.
guy is not a messenger, but it's a
Yeah.
it's a leader, and you adjust anyway. You have to act
Yes.
into thinking. So don't think that market research will tell you that is right or wrong. And don't misunderstand me. Market research is a useful tool.
Yes.
But for example, V-Power in 98 in Hungary, now I can publicly say, researched terribly.
Yeah.
Nobody said that they wanted it,
No.
and nobody said that they would be prepared to pay
Yes.
premium for it. So sometimes you just really need to be driving the market instead of waiting for a research to tell you what it could be. And I did this in my own career again next time in Texas, Houston, where
Yes.
we went to use
Mm.
natural gas to produce lubricants.
It
And
was the
everybody
time of
said that
Pennzoil.
it was the Pennzoil. This is Shell's
Yeah.
lubricants brand in the
Yes.
United States. And everybody said, look, um,
Impossible.
natural gas is a commodity. Why would it differentiate? Now, people said that, but customers didn't think that way. When we communicated to people that, look, it's made out of natural gas and it looks like this, it's like water,
Yes.
uh, then people say, wow. This is amazing. And by
That's
the
right.
way, technically, it is a great lubricant,
Yes.
but you could also market it really well. Many people said you cannot do it.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was able to manage the stakeholders back then that I got the support for the United
Yes.
States. And because in the United States it was a great success, it became a global proposition for Shell. So stick your neck out, think about what is your real belief, innovate, and try to be, if it's at all possible, to sell and develop propositions where you can get an additional
Mm.
premium to be paid by the customers on a regular basis so they keep coming back buying this product,
Yes.
because then you do have an income stream which can make it possible for you to be very profitable. If you think that, particularly with a
Mm.
brand, you can discount yourself to glory. Well,
No.
that's a very, very short lived Pyrrhus victory in my own experience. You can
Mm.
get some volume increases and
Yeah.
everything, but long term, sustainable, rateable profitability, you're not going to be able to get.
Yeah. And of course, you achieved many of these successes with teams, right? You
Yeah.
have built very successful teams, led many teams. What's your secret to making them buzz?
I think,
We are in the Bay buzzing business, of course.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we work together. Some of the things you need to be yourself. So I mentioned that Istvan is the sort of honorary Zulu or the Hungarian cowboy. I'm a global guy, but I'm also a Hungarian guy,
Yes.
and I'm Istvan, and you know me. I mean, of course, everybody's getting wiser and learn a lot, but the general characteristics and the way how you conduct
Yes.
yourself is very similar. So you don't keep changing ever. Don't even
Yes.
try the way how your personal characteristics are. Use them rather as a benefit, as a strength. Understand your strengths and try to be controlling somehow your weaknesses, which we all have.
Yeah.
But build upon your strengths and be very sort of proud of them. And I think people understood what my strengths were. So in my
Yeah.
team, They understood that they get a real man. So it's whatever I say, I believe. I'm not a messenger from the head office. The other one, because of this, authenticity was not a problem because they always knew that, look, this is real. And contrary to any belief, it doesn't matter where you're from any parts of the world, for longer in business than for 2 minutes. Because afterwards, the only thing which counts, how much you are able to contribute to the team. The other thing which is useful, and what I was able to build teams, is because I treat people who sell, uh, people who are perhaps not the best paid part of our hierarchy, even better than I would treat our CEO or a prime minister, and that is an important thing because the way I judge other leaders, if I watch them with their boss or with a minister or with a prime minister, and if I see their body language or behavior is subservient, but with their own people they are looking down upon some people
Yes.
or a little bit harsher or whatever, those are not good leadership styles to really motivate, energize, inspire people. And people figure it out. You cannot
Yes.
fake it. So that's the reason why I say you have to be authentic. You cannot fake it because you are out there when you are a leader, particularly if it's a global job 24/7. So you better like your own people. And, as you remember, I called myself not a CEO, but a CHO, Chief Hugging Officer, wherever, of course, it's
Yes.
culturally acceptable. But I remember in Oman, I was just after COVID, I was hugging around 2,000 service station heroes and also workers who were building our
Yes.
service stations because I liked them. It was not in my job description that I need to do that. I appreciated their work and I know how much it meant to them that they were treated as colleagues as they should be. So I think these are the elements. And the other one, perhaps the last, is skin in the game.
Mm.
I never asked more from my own people than I was not ready to do. So I was sticking my neck out. So if I had to protect my teams,
Yes.
I protected them. And I have plenty of examples. The best thing was in Germany, where we really changed the strategy, and I had to be standing up for the team, and I was ready to do. So you have to have skin in the game sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love, you said, consistency, authenticity, diversity, and I've seen it in action. This respect for anyone in the organization, right? And that's ultimately is what also successful teams are built of.
Yes.
And you had long sales career. Is there maybe someone that shaped your sales mindset, maybe at the beginning of your career, or gave you some good advice that you felt
Yeah, so the
what
mentor
was it?
I had early on in my career, I was very lucky, is Josef Wartel, who
Mm.
was my boss in Hungary behind the Iron Curtain, by the way. He's an Austrian. He's still my mentor, and we still
Okay.
keep in contact. Uh, and he was very, very important for me to develop myself. So some of
Mm.
the things that you hear from me, very much coming from him as well, is that it's absolutely okay to be proud of what you are, who you are, and what your strengths are, and
Yes.
don't worry about your weaknesses. Don't hide them because everybody has them. So just be yourself. Act into thinking. He was very much the type of leader who said, "Well, in a big company, as you know, it can be a bit of an analysis paralysis.
Yes.
We're going to be having another deal review board and another
Yes.
discussion, this and that, and to say, well, take some actions. Typically we have a big business and take actions. 3 service stations, try it. If it works, do it. Very, very important. Face reality. Don't live in a cuckoo land. Yeah. So, in this international world, there are many buzzwords. People are using many things, and you can sound like a businessman, but you're not a businessman. Yeah, you're just a person who is sounding like a businessman, but you don't face reality. And steady everyday process, and retail is like that. Retail is
Yes.
detail, is far more needed for success than one jolly good idea
Yeah.
or basically a strategy. So what you heard me before
Yes.
was coming from him. So that was him who had massive impact on me, particularly early stages in my career. Therefore, I am also mentoring many people and trying to help. Both in Shell I did, and now
Yes.
back in Hungary, I try to do this in my smaller business community to help the Hungarian business people to develop. But then there was another other person who was helping and shaping my view, who was running our downstream operations as a president, and he was a
Mm.
controversial type of person, but
Mhm.
he was the guy who was putting us onto buses to
Mhm.
go to service stations to
Ah,
clean the windscreen. And I, as you know, we all came famous that we go
yes.
and we work on sites.
Yes.
uh, it came from him, because early stage of my career you realize that is being a leader is not to be in a suit and
Mm.
have a meeting with others if your business is out there to sell petrol. Yeah, it's a different thing than if you are a banker.
Yes.
And don't be ashamed of that. As a matter of fact, be proud of it. And that's the reason why
Yes.
many people said that, Istvan, do you have a real shirt, not only just the share shirt?
Mm. You do.
Because I was wearing that with pride, of course,
Mm.
because our people were wearing that on the forecourt, and these are important things at the beginning of your career. What is important and what
Mm.
is not that important.
Interesting. And you obviously have been a coach. You have been coached also. Have you any thoughts about the role of coaching for sales teams, especially maybe B2B sales teams? Obviously, I don't know, you many territory managers, district managers. Any thoughts on the coaching side?
So coaching is a wonderful thing because it's not supervision,
No.
it's not giving a solution, it's not giving them a work plan what to do. It is really listening, understanding the situation, and based upon your own experience, try to give the best advice you could. I I coach many people in different parts of the world, and
Yes.
the challenges are very different. Uh, and therefore, your ability to adapt your particular experience and try to give an advice
Mm.
uh, is the fundamental part of coaching. And it is not about the technical knowledge. People are not expecting from you to give a real technical solution to their problem. It's rather give them something from your own experience which they can try that it might work. Now if you can demonstrate things, because
Yeah.
the relationship is like that, so for example how to make a deal, and if you can walk the talk
Yes.
as a coach is always great. But sometimes when it is not in your area of experience, you still can coach other people on general leadership matters, which is also extraordinarily useful. And particularly in the last year, I
Mm.
coached quite a number of business leaders in Hungary in
Yes.
industries where I don't have any experience.
Yes.
And according to them, I'm able to adapt my own knowledge to their particular need and give an advice, particularly in the area of leadership.
Yeah, and about AI, that's what we do. So we recruit a big network of sales experts, and our recommendation is indeed to associate an expert outside the industry, because someone from your industry might also be know it all and not actually be able to give you a new set of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, somebody from the industry would give you a solution. You
Yeah,
don't need a solution, you need an
yeah,
advice, how to look at
yes.
it differently, a different angle, perhaps.
Yeah, and let's talk about artificial intelligence. Of course, you are in Abeille AI is about artificial intelligence. What role do you see it can play in sales? Is it a help or a hype or maybe both?
I think artificial intelligence in sales and generally anyway is critical because artificial intelligence will not, I don't believe, will beat you in sales,
No.
but the people who use effectively artificial intelligence will most
Yes.
likely. So it is just giving you another tool to be far
Mm.
more capable,
Yes.
faster, ready to act than ever before.
Yes.
And therefore, don't believe for a second that that will do the job instead of you, because then
Yes.
you are not really needed. But use it to full capacity in all areas which actually takes time away from you. You don't need to do that with artificial intelligence. Things that we would have been using a couple of days to
Yes.
prepare, you can do it in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So you have significantly more time for the things we talked about, like building the personal relationships, developing basically new programs of sales, how to sell. Then administrative matters or even just basic sales processes.
Yeah, and that's also what we see at the AI, in general in the industry. Account managers that use artificial intelligence can save 5 hours a week. And if you think that on the fact that only 30% of the time of an account manager is actually devoted to selling, because
Yeah.
70% is into preparing emails, preparation, meetings,
But
etc.
it's all true, isn't it, for everything?
It's
So it's
massive.
for account managers selling, in
Yeah.
the fuels business, territory managers burdened by total
Yes.
administration, and now they can go out there and basically spend time with customers, which is the area which will be most likely more difficult to be replacing humans. I mean, I would never say would never happen. I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, but I tell you, one of the things which we learned, of course, in the business in COVID is that although we were able to communicate absolutely fantastically with MS Teams,
Yes.
uh, I never forget that after COVID, the first sort of after hours drink, which
Yes.
typically started at 5 and ended at 6.
Yeah.
After COVID, it started at 5 and ended at midnight, because everybody was just so hungry for
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
interaction. So use your capabilities for the human interactions instead of administration.
Thank you, Ishvan. Now we're getting to a close. Maybe one sentence that you would say to your 25-year-old young Ishvan about starting in sales, some advice or something to avoid.
One sentence I would say to a young person, which I somehow got from my own mentor, so I was ready. I was lucky. Trust your instincts.
Mhm.
Trust your instincts. Some people would even say gut feels. Perhaps
Yeah.
that's a bit too general, but instincts. But at the same time, never stop in your whole life learning and adapting.
Mm.
So it's an interesting combination. Instincts, but keep learning
Yes.
and adapt. Because I had the pleasure to go back to my university after 41 years after I graduated
Mm.
to talk to the students at the last time when they received their degrees.
Yes.
And I said to them, look, when I finished, because one of the reasons why I said this, because I was in a TikTok interview, and when I went on
Yes.
stage, they said, he's the guy from TikTok. Yeah. And I said, look, when I finished the same university like you did,
Yeah.
not that we didn't have TikTok or
No.
didn't have smartphones or
No.
internet.
No.
We didn't even have back then. Many
Yeah.
of us didn't have even telephone at home.
Yes.
But the basic principles of selling, interaction, and everything not
Yes.
changed, but you had to be learning all the other elements. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to be better. So it's not either or. It is a fantastic thing that you can constantly learn new things. At the
Yes.
same time, the moment you give up your own instincts, the moment you believe that a gadget
Yeah.
will differentiate you, that's the time when you're not competitive anymore.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Trust your instincts. And as we talked about, is also instincts helping you to perhaps differentiate to others,
Yeah.
because that's what instincts are. It's coming, from very deep.
Yeah. Thank you, Ishvan. Maybe last final word about your career in sales or final word in general.
No, I mean, as you can, I'm very excited about that 40 years I had and 37 in Shell, I always said that this was an amazing journey,
Mm.
and therefore I always say to people, really look for a great journey, not a position.
Yes.
So don't believe that real career is that you become a CEO
Yes.
or a big title. You have to have a good journey, and I had an amazing journey, 37 years in different countries. A guy who comes from
Beautiful.
Budapest, and I was able to run a big American company, work in South Africa, run a big global business out of London, and be an honorary German. Uh, it's a lovely, lovely period, and I enjoyed it big time because I think I just kept it to those basic principles that I mentioned to you: liking people, clear communication, and authenticity.
Thank you, Ishvan. That was great to have you, and you shared a lot of great stories, but also wisdom, and I'm sure that the listeners will love this interview. So thank you very much, and I will look forward to seeing you and buzzing together in Abeille.ai.
Thank you very much. And Giorgio, if I may say so, I really wish you great success with this initiative of yours. You followed your instincts.
Yes.
You're really very good in building relationships. And I have no doubt in my mind that Abeille AI will be the most successful sales platform globally. I wish
Super.
you luck with that.
Thank you very much.